Before we dive into the HMIS database, I want to briefly go over what the COC is, as well as the lead agency role. I think that this is really important to establish a foundation of why we're using this database and how the information that you enter in is used. So, what is a COC? COC stands for Continuum of Care. HUD developed the COC program as an interim rule in response to the Hearth Act in 2009, which amended the existing McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. The idea was that by working collaboratively, we could better provide community-based solutions to ending homelessness, and this would help reduce the trauma and dislocation that individuals experience as a result of homelessness. So you may be asking, who is the COC? How is this set up, and why does this apply to me? Well, if you're watching this, you too are a part of the COC. The COC is comprised of a group of agencies as well as individuals and persons with lived experience who help carry out the duties defined in the interim rule. The COC has a board, a lead agency, and many other subcommittees. The Upstate COC is located up here in the top left on this map of South Carolina. We do have 4 COCs in the state of South Carolina. The Upstate COC is comprised of over 80 agencies and individuals who provide housing, shelter, services, or other resources to those experiencing homelessness. It's further divided into 4 different chapters, divided geographically across the Upstate. More specifically, how do we serve you? What do we do? And why are we doing this? Well, we help provide federal HUD funding that's allocated and allows us to better provide services within the Upstate. We also, through using the coordinated entry system, the vulnerability assessment, as well as the HMIS database, help identify housing opportunities or vacancies so that those most at risk and those most in need can access the best housing opportunity for them. In addition, we hold a number of committees that help us meet all of the requirements and expectations as laid out in that interim rule. We also host trainings, provide education, like these videos, and provide support for agencies. And this spans across utilizing the database, all the way through grant monitoring and other support and just being able to connect and work with other agencies within the COC. You'll learn more about the COC when we visit the website later, but you can visit it yourself at upstatecoc.org. Though I am going to do an overview of this website, I highly recommend checking it out regularly because it's updated all the time. So you might have also heard me mention the lead agency. Well, what is a lead agency and what do they do? The lead agency is currently United Housing Connections. The lead agency was voted upon by all members of the COC, and it carries a lot of responsibility. Some of those responsibilities include housing the coordinated entry system, the HMIS database, as well as providing maintenance and support to all agencies within the COC to help maintain the principles, priorities, and overall standards of the interim rule. In addition, the lead agency is the collaborative applicant for all of this federal funding, and they help unite all of the agencies that have applied for said funding and secure that funding for their programs. You can learn more about United Housing Connections at unitedhousingconnections.org. Now let's get into HMIS. So what does HMIS stand for? HMIS stands for Homeless Management Information System. Basically, that means that this is a really big database. It serves a number of purposes, including helping identify gaps in housing and services to better inform effective planning. That means that a lot of the information that we collect in this database is extracted, of course, without personally identifiable information, and it's used to inform policymakers, the community, and agencies about areas that we need to give more attention and allows us to better serve those in need. In addition, it allows for the Upstate to compete more effectively for federal funding. To utilize federal funding, there are a number of different standards laid out in the interim rule. We want to make sure that everyone's using it correctly and responsibly. Part of that is measured by the use of this database. It also allows us to better share their stories. You'll see when we dive into the database that you'll be able to see a person's journey from the moment that they started receiving services all the way up until they've received housing opportunities or been housed. For some, this spans across a couple months. It may be just an interaction with one agency, but others, it may be over a period of years. You'll see that because we, as the state of South Carolina, decided to share the HMIS database at the state level, that you can also see clients who have traveled from places like Charleston to Columbia, and then maybe from Columbia to Greenville, and how their experiences developed. In addition, it holds some pretty vital information to allow us to better provide services to those individuals. The HMIS database is set up basically like a giant filing cabinet. In each drawer, you'll find things like their case files or case notes, as well as useful items like their forms of ID or even records on their entries and exits to different programs. Something important to note is that because we're holding all this information, security is a top priority. There are a number of rules as listed out in our privacy policy as well as our policies and procedures that details our security expectations, but a few of them are listed here. The number one thing is that your password is absolutely sacred to you. There's no sharing of accounts, and you need to make sure that you're responsible with your access to this database. That means that you can't save your password to your browser to auto log in for you. You can't have it written down or posted on your wall or on a sticky note on your desk, and you also need to exit out of the database when you exit your office. When working remotely, you need to make sure that you have a secure network and that your computer has a firewall, an antivirus, or anti-spyware software downloaded. It's also important to use Firefox or Edge to be able to utilize this software most effectively. Sharing information from within the HMIS database with other agencies or individuals who are not in the HMIS database is prohibited. That means that it's not okay to have a discussion about a client and information in there like their history or maybe their vulnerability assessment with users or agencies or individuals who are not already in the HMIS database. In addition, it's also important that you don't utilize their name or any personally identifiable information when emailing back and forth. For example, if your email was hacked and you had something like the client's name or the client's ID or any personally identifiable information attached to the email and the information that you're sharing, that could be a breach of confidentiality. Should law enforcement request to see your HMIS database or have additional information about a client, this is permitted. However, they do need to go through the lead agency so they can reach your HMIS system administrator, myself, or the director of operations for the COC. Data can be used without personally identifiable information. You can learn more about this by reading our data standards as well as our privacy policy and our policies and procedures. There is one more item, which is the privacy statement. That's also located with the policies and procedures and the privacy policy. It's important that you print this out and make it available in any area that you are interviewing or working with clients. These are their rights, and this is just helping explain to them how we're utilizing this data and that the goal of it is not only to provide them better services, but give them more equitable access to housing opportunities. If you have any questions and you're watching this video, please feel free to submit a ticket, or there should be a Q&A session on the website that might answer some of your questions. Thanks for watching!